If you're like me, you haven't played a Battlefield game since Battlefield 3 or 4 all those years ago. DICE has definitely cooked up lots of fumbles on the franchise since then. From extremely buggy launches that ruined their player base upon arrival, or World War shooters that overstayed their welcome and became stale. Is this Battlefield the game that they need to make a comeback? Obviously, the full game isn't out yet, and that's apparent in the 2 beta weekends we've had, but it should be said that having a beta is a great start already. Having a DICE game come out buggy on release is like seeing a white girl at a Starbucks. It's to be expected. But it seems like this beta is here mainly to fix any launch issues the game would normally have. And right out the gate, I want to say that this game works very well. I've noticed hardly any bugs or glitches, a little bit of wonkiness here or there, but nothing to where I would want to stop playing the game. No one wants to pay $70 for a game just to not be able to play it on the weekend they bought it. So the fact that DICE was able to give us an open beta and show us that the game was working really well months before release is really nice to see, and gives players confidence that they can actually play their game when they buy it. Since Battlefield 3 and 4, they've reworked the class system, and they limited the number of weapons you have on this beta. It's obvious they're trying to keep some things under wrap to not completely spoil the game for us. But right out the gate, I really want to say that this game is just fun. So many games these days are on a structured rule set, are heavily ranked focus, and try so hard to be balanced what was never designed to be balanced in the first place. But Battlefield feels like it's just fun. We've all seen those clips of people doing crazy stuff like attaching C4s to their teammate's car, and running into a crowd of enemies just to blow them up, or jumping out of a jet midair to rock an enemy jet just to get back in their own jet, all while in midair. So much to experiment with on maps and vehicles we haven't seen yet, and with this beta it really feels like DICE wants to get back to their glory days. Also, for whatever reason, companies still insist on putting motion blur as if everybody doesn't just turn it off. I thought we left that annoying trend back in 2014, but it's there as an option for you to turn it off, as you should since it's there by default. Now let's get to the guns and attachments. Here's where I feel like Battlefield may have taken a misstep. A lot of the guns I used in this beta just feel so easy to use and have almost no recoil. They don't shoot very strong, but they are so easy to control that it makes up for it. And so you can beam someone across the map easily, hit 10 shots, and they'll still be alive. Though that could change with the new weapons or new balance tweaks they make by the time the game comes out. It does make the time to kill feel much longer. In contrast with other guns like the shotgun is extremely strong and has much more range to one shot than even Call of Duty does. Which is crazy to think about because a sniper can only one shot in the head, which makes sense. But if you're 30 meters away from someone, you can still have a good chance to one-shot someone in the chest with a shotgun. On top of that, I feel like they buffed the bullet drop in this game. I mostly use this sniper, and every time I would hit someone across the map, it wouldn't kill unless it was a perfect headshot, which I didn't mind, but the bullet drop felt like it no longer existed like it did in previous Battlefields. No matter what distance, what angle I was at, I felt like I could just aim for the head and it would be fine, missing that skill you would develop through trial and error that made snipers so satisfying to use, and not to mention the skill it would take. So guns are weak and easy to use, which is an interesting decision they made. I would definitely push to make them slightly harder to use, bring back some more of the bullet drop, and hopefully make guns feel a little bit stronger, but also a little harder to use, with some added recoil. Classes. The classes, however, I really like. They've changed from Battlefield 3 and 4. They now have 4 classes, that being the medic, the engineer, the assault, and the recon. You can pretty much put any primary on any class and be a recon with an LMG if you wanted, or an engineer with a sniper. What doesn't change are the secondary and the tacticals you have, and I like it for that. It doesn't completely restrict you from using a gun you like and a class you like, but also doesn't allow you to be a medic with RPGs able to take down tanks and also simultaneously revive multiple teammates at the same time. Some people have their opinions about this. It seems to be hit or miss. I personally like being able to choose my primary and not feel so locked into a weapon when I choose a class, but I can see why others would prefer having that more balanced gameplay. There are 4 classes in Battlefield and they all work something like this. You are rewarded for picking a class and sticking to it throughout the duration of the game. You get bonus perks known as field specs, and there are 3 levels to this system, at which level 3 gives you an active on top of a passive. Also now, any class can revive you in the game. If you're down and someone in your squad is near you, they can carry you to a safe spot and revive you. regardless if they're playing the medic or not. And I really like that. Having a teammate revived instead of going through the effort of respawning is a big reward that has helped lots of times when objectives are needed. But a bigger reason why I like this change is that every time I play another game, it's always the support classes that don't get enough attention. It's almost like in games like Overwatch, Valorant, Apex, playing the medics and the supports are always something where you have to feel like you have to do, and there's hardly any people. But I personally feel that because the ability to revive your teammates is so strong and is shown through that, just going through that dangerous situation we talked about, that going from that to just the medic class where you can pull out a defibrillator and instantly revive almost gives it like marketing. And I've seen so many games with medics that I don't think I've run into a game where we were short on medics. Even on fast-paced objective games like Domination or Rush, it gives players a great comparison on how useful the medic is. And I actually never saw a shortage of medic players, and I feel like it's for this reason. And if you don't like playing the medic so much in previous games because you were stuck to other guns before, now you can choose any primary you'd like. So if you like using a shotgun or an assault rifle, you can still use that as a medic, adding on to the freedom that the game gives you and always making it feel like a class will always be taken in your squad. I love it personally. Then there's Recon, which is best suited for snipers since you have a motion sensor and a spawn satellite giving you the tools you need to choose a spot far away, sit tight, sit pretty with a sniper scope in your eye. The Engineer, which can blow up enemy vehicles and repair friendly. And I thought it was cool that you can now hang on the back of a tank as an engineer and repair it as you're hanging on. So I think that was a nice change. Finally, there's Assault, which I feel is a little underwhelming. As an Assault, you can carry a shotgun as your secondary, essentially giving you two primaries on top of the grenade launcher you can use against your enemies, which is really useful. However, it really feels underwhelming because the ability you get feels pretty useless. You get a stim shot that makes you move faster, and that level 3 reward we talked about for sticking to the same class, well, it's just another stim shot. You get some other things too, but they aren't really as game changing as the other classes. While the Engineer gets more rockets, faster reloads, and rockets that slow repairs for enemy tanks, the Assault gets extra adrenaline shots, adds mobility, and faster recovery when low. Might sound okay on paper, but in game you hardly notice a difference, and even if you did, they just aren't as strong as having unrevivable headshots such as the Recon, or stronger and faster reloading rockets such as the Engineer. I hope they're able to rework the Assault to make it a little more fun and less disappointing. Overall, I like the class system they have here. It's very different than what I remember from previous Battlefields, but it is fun and I like that. I do wish there was maybe one more class to keep the variety up, but I can understand why they wanted to have to match the number of classes with the number of squad members. Maps. There's not a lot to talk about here for the maps. There were 4 maps in the beta. Normally in Battlefield, we're used to the very big maps, high rises, and lots of taller buildings, but I feel like most of the maps here have been honestly pretty similar to Call of Duty. Much flatter, you don't get more than really 2 floors in a building. And that's such a far cry from my first memory of Battlefield, like the big tower in Battlefield 4 that will completely collapse. There were also many tall buildings with floors that you can paraglide off of, and a lot of that was missing here. And I remember seeing little clips here and there of people just going from tall building to tall building with their paragliders, thinking that looks like so much fun. You could argue they want to keep those more secret and just beta test the game, so those maps are in the game, but we haven't seen it. But even if that were to be true, it really felt like the maps weren't even that fun. I'm going to keep saying this a lot, but the maps made it feel like modern day Call of Duty. They weren't anything that I got excited about. Normally, you'd love a certain map more than the other, but I feel like if we were to put it on a scale out of 10, the maps I didn't like the most would be like a 3 or 4, and the maps I like the most would be like a 5, 6. It's still pretty even across the board as being pretty neutral, and they're just a place for the game to take place on, instead of it being a more interactive map with set pieces and things that make it truly memorable. I still say we need to wait until the full game is out to get the full thoughts on that. But what is out though, I think it is serviceable, and the fact that you can blow up walls and destroy buildings is really fun to play with and gives a lot of openings to situations that would be harder to deal with in other games. For the first weekend, we got 4 game modes categorized as large and small scale warfare. I'll put a quick description of each game mode on the screen here, but for now I'll just list them. We have Conquest, Breakthrough, King of the Hill, Domination, Rush, and Squad Deathmatch. Out of all of them, I felt like Breakthrough was my favorite mode. I love to snipe, and this game mode easily favored snipers, and so it was really fun to go and capture a point with my secondary assault rifle and then snipe out the others from far away. Also, an honorable mention to King of the Hill. It ended up impressing me as a fun game mode, and the fact that we can use deployable covers as an engineer and destroy buildings really made the game much more interesting, knowing that no place was truly safe. Again, I felt like all the game modes were great, they were serviceable. I think they're just standard Battlefield game modes. I do know that DICE is going to come out with more game modes, such as a Battle Royale. There's supposed to be a campaign, which, Battlefield campaigns have never hit, really. But they're there, and there'll be more along the way. And finally, in terms of glitches, the game has been mostly bug-free. There were some times where I would encounter a glitch that wouldn't let me join a match with a friend, but a simple restart fixed the issue. There's also some wonky things with the game, like sometimes I will be using my guns, the animation stops, so if I throw a grenade, my assault rifle is still out. If I shoot, my assault rifle acts really weird, I can't see myself reloading, etc., but nothing game breaking, and nothing that would enrage me to quit the game, so props to DICE for finally releasing a game that's more polished on release. My final thoughts? Overall, it feels like DICE is finally moving into a direction that we haven't seen in a while. I'm sure behind the scenes it was critical for DICE to launch a successful game since their previous entries haven't moved units like it used to. Although thinking about it now, it's probably more important to EA since 90% of the original DICE developers have left. But either way, having a beta test is a step in the right direction, and how well the beta has performed really gives me hope that the next Battlefield could be the next big game in a market that is thirsting for multiplayer games that aren't ranked focused. Just my opinion, but it was refreshing just seeing people have fun and not focus about ranks. I just hope skill-based matchmaking isn't in the works for this game.